Thank you. First, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present this work in this workshop. So this is a joint collaboration work with Frédéric Lavancier, Thierry Pecot, and Liu Xingxing. So the main objective of my team is to develop computational methods for deciphering intracellular dynamics and structure at the cell scales, as illustrated on this first image. As illustrated on this composite two-color videos, the transport of fluorescent tagged molecules via vesicles propelled by molecular motors along the cytoskeleton provide the roots of communication between the inside of the cell and the extracellular medium. So in my team, we focus on this kind of data. And as you can see, it's challenging to extract information from such video. In particular, an important objective is to quantify the interactions between the two moving molecules involved in specific functions of the cell. Typically, here you have an illustration of exocytosis mechanisms observed in turf microscopy with a resolution which is given on the right-hand side, about 50 milliseconds per frame on a 2D or 3D video. So in this talk, I will focus on the quantification of interactions between two molecules observed in two channels, the red channel and the gray channels, as illustrated on this image. And the question we have in mind is to decide if these two molecules do interact or not. This is a very basic question, but actually it's not an easy. It's not so easy to answer to this question. Right. So colocalization typically is a very old problem introduced in microscopy and bioimaging maybe 30 years ago. A very basic question, because it is a very popular approach to quantify protein and protein interactions between observed at the resolution of the microscope. So it refers to the detection of emission of molecules, of two molecules within a given pixel. So we have to decide for each pixel if the two molecules are at the same place at a given time. So in practice, it amounts to deciding if the two molecules do interact globally. So you have two images. You have to decide yes or no these are two molecules interact, or locally. So the question is maybe different if you consider that we have small interactions in the cell. All right. So to address actually this is an open problem actually. For which no satisfying solution has been given up to now. This is a basic question, but there is no practical approach to decide objectively if these are two images or these are two molecules do interact. So it is a starting point of analysis and is usually badly interpreted. Actually, this question is very basic. It's central in biology, but generally there are bad interpretation in most cases. That's why we propose an objective approach based on the random setup modeling to decide if these two molecules do interact or not. This method is quite fast because we consider cross-form formula to analyze the interaction between these molecules. It is robust to noise, and it is robust to different shift between the two images. And actually, it is only controlled by one parameter. This parameter is a p-value, as in traditional statistical software. So the user, which is generally a biologist, can decide if these are two objectively, if these two molecules do interact or not. So it guarantees some reproducibility of results and objective interpretation in separate. So we have developed this methodology, which is we shall see later, with this following specification in mind. Actually, this methodology or algorithm should be robust to any signal-to-noise ratio. It should be able to process 2D, 3D, 2D plus time, 3D images or multi-sprite data in short time. It should be quite flexible. I mean, it should be able to analyze images coming from different image resolution. For instance, in super resolution, the resolution is about 30 nanometers, and in a usual conventional microscopy, the pixel size is 100 nanometers. So the second important thing is that this algorithm should be controlled by an end user, and this end user is a biologist. Okay, so and generally it's easier if this algorithm is controlled only by one parameter, two at most, because it's very hard to interpret when you have more parameters. And finally, it should be able to process to handle an amount of data. And of course, what I'm going to show in a few minutes, that this algorithm should be well posed to guarantee good results. So in the first part of my talk, I will previous conventional approach used to address stress issue in bioimaging. The first metrics considered to evaluate the correlation between the two images, of course, to consider the Pearson correlation coefficient, or another possibility to consider the Monders coefficients. But these coefficients are very strongly influenced by image background, shift between the two images. And actually, the results are also depending on the quantity or density of molecules that you can observe in each chunk. Okay, so that's why you need to develop something which is quite new. In addition, actually, these methodology do not provide any statistical rule. It means, in other words, it means that the user has to set an empirical threshold to decide if these two images colocalize or not. So it depends on the images. So you need to normalize these coefficients to decide if these two images correlate or not. That's why we propose something which is new in that field. Despite actually, to overcome some difficulties, I just give you information about that. To overcome some difficulties, actually, intensity-based approaches and object-based approaches have been proposed and investigated for a long time. So either you consider the intensity in the image, or either you consider segmentation of the image, and then you try to analyze the spatial distribution of objects to decide if these two images colocalize or not. So in this talk, I will focus on two approaches, which are very popular now in cell imaging. The first one is an intensity-based approach. This is a cost approach. This cost approach actually amounts to provide statistical significance to the PCC, to the Pearson coefficient correlation. Okay, so you need intensive simulation to provide the p-value, but actually it's a very basic approach, but it provides good results. The second approach is proposed by Thibault Lagache. This approach consists in segmenting the image first. So you apply, for instance, a spot detector, and then you will reduce each conductive component to one point, and then to decide if these two images correlate or not, you apply basic statistical tools, spatial statistical tools, or point processes statistics to decide to take a decision. So these two approaches are very interesting because they provide the p-value, right? Which is not the case with the previous approaches. Okay, so you have an illustration here of the technique. So of course, for the Lagache method, you need a large number of small objects, because if you reduce a large region to one given point, you have some difficulties. So it cannot be applied to any scenarios in biology. So in what follows, we consider that colocalization is significantly positive if the p-value is lower than the threshold, typically 0.05 value is the basic value given considered in practice to decide if colocalization is positive or not. Right. So this, in my experiments, I will give you some results by using this threshold. Okay, so the next point now is to apply this. There is some limitation, so I guess I give you a few limitations for the Lagache method, and for the cost method, the problem is that actually you need the permutation procedure, and you need to specify the size of blocks because you need permutation. Okay, to get the p-value, you need to permutate different patches, and then you can compute this p-value. So that's so it is intensive to get these results. So we propose then a new approach, which is called GCOPS. Which this approach is based on the random set framework, and I will give you a few details in one moment. Right. So the so-called GCOPS software or tool takes as inputs two binary segmented images. So you can apply any segmentation technique that you need. Typically here you consider a spot detector to extract information from two channels, RAB11 protein and Langerhans protein. So, but we can imagine other technique to extract these binary images. And then we apply the random set frameworks to decide, to evaluate this correlation. Another situation here, of course, there we spots, for instance, but you have large regions as well. So in each situation, you need to use a specific segmentation technique to extract the meaningful information. Another situation here where you have filamentous regions, and then you want to correlate the red channel with the green channel as well. So as you see, you have diversity of objects. So it's not so hard to decide if these are two channels correct. I must mention here that sometimes you have anti-colocalization. I mean, if you have a red pixel at a given pixel, but you have no green pixel, it doesn't mean that they are not independent. It means that if you have a green pixel, so you can have no information at that pixel. Typically, it is the case if you have membrane, a membrane marker, and you have a nuclei marker. So you can have membrane and nuclei in the same place. Right. So formally, what we have done is the following one. So formally, we consider that we have two random sets, because the two binary images are considered a realization of two random sets. In what follows, I will denote gamma 1 and gamma 2, the random sets associated to channel, the green channel and the red channel. I will denote P1, the probability of a pixel to belonging to gamma 1, and P2, the probability of a pixel to belonging to gamma 2, and P12, the probability of a pixel to belonging to gamma 1 and gamma 2. In other words, it could be a red and green pixel at the same time, right? So in the probabilistic framework, actually, if the two images are independent, then P12 equals to the product of P1 by P2. That's basic, right? So we can approximate this probability as follows. Actually, it amounts to counting the number of pixels belonging to gamma 1, the number of pixels belonging to gamma 2, and the number of pixels belonging to the interaction between gamma 1 and gamma 2, right? And our objective is to study the fluctuation of this empirical discrepancy measure D, which is the difference between the error between. Doesn't work anywhere. This error. Okay. So our test actually, our procedure test amounts to analyze this now normalized score. So you have D now, and this, the D is normalized with respect to the variance of D. So I will give you more information about the computation of VD, which is the main trick in this approach. So this test, the score actually amounts to approximate the interaction strength by the area of interaction between the two binary images. Okay, if you have many overlap, of course, we are probably good interactions between these two images. That's the idea. Okay, so what we have done is we have proved that this normalized score asymptotically converges to a zero mean Gaussian distribution. It means that this test now is controlled by the p-value, right? So if t is very large, then the p-value is very small. And if this p-value is lower than the given confidence level alpha, then you consider that these two images are colocalized. Okay, that's the idea. So that's all. So for a user, you just to specify this confidence level alpha, which is the recommendation we have in mind when we started the study. Okay, an additional interpretation of this score. Actually, this score can be interpreted as a statistical measure applied to the F1 score or the DICE score, which are generally considered when you compare segmentation maps and ground truth. Okay, so this is the first time we can provide a statistical test to analyze this very popular metric used when you compare segmentations. So the main trick is to compute this variance, because if you can normalize D with respect to the variance, then you have the problem is solved. So we have proposed an approximation of this variance, which is given on this formula, where C1 and C2 correspond to auto covariance functions of gamma 1 and gamma 2. Okay. C1 and C2 are generally estimated by applying fast Fourier transform. And as said earlier, if this test now follows a zero mean Gaussian distribution, provided that these two autocovariance functions tend fast enough to zero when the distance between two neighboring points is sufficiently large. Right. So if you can guarantee that, then the approximation of the variance is quite good. Okay, that's all. So we have evaluated this basic approach now on the synthetic and real images, and we compared the results and the sensitivity of these approaches we compare this method to the Kost-Ender-Gasch method, which is the most popular methods in cell biology labs. So first we consider two simulators to generate data. In the first simulator, which is described on the slide, we generate, for instance, randomly red particles, okay, in the first step, and in the second step, we generate a percentage of green particles nearby the red particles. So this percentage or proportion of green particles nearby a red particle is referred to the level of colocalization later. So I need this information. So this is the ground truth we have in mind. And finally, the other green particles are drawn randomly and independently. Okay, so you have just a few particles that colocalize, and we control this level of colocalization. Okay, we have also so you have a stance here. different scenarios. So we, in our experiments, we consider the scenarios where you have no noise and no shift. But of course, we can exploit these data as inputs, but we prefer to consider images. So we convolve the image of particles by a point-spread function, and we add Gaussian and Poisson noise to get images that which are very similar to what we have on macroscopy. Okay, so and then we apply detectors or segmentation later to introduce some noise in the data. Okay. We consider two scenarios. In the case where sometimes we have no noise, no shift, and we have the situation where you have noise and you have some shift between the two channels. Here we have, for instance, a shift of 3 pixels. Okay, and we consider the different levels of colocalization. Levels of colocalization. 0 colocalization corresponds to independency. 2.5 colocalization, so you have 2.5 of green pixels close to the red pixels, and 5% of colocalization. We simulated 1,000 images to evaluate the sensitivity of methods in practice. Okay. Now we also evaluated the sensitivity of the 3 methods to different shapes and scales. So we consider a second simulator based on the Gaussian level sets with a correlation of 0. So you have independency on between the two Gaussian random fields, and a correlation of 0.1 or 0.3. So you have more interaction in the last situation, of course. As you can see, the simulator is quite flexible because sometimes you have images that correspond to zoom-in views of region of interest observed in images simulated with smaller objects, right? So if you can decide if the two channels correlate or not with very large regions, then you can imagine you can apply the process on some windows in the image. Okay, so we have this kind of situations, right? So we perfectly control the degree of colocalization, and we evaluated the sensitivity of each method. So on the first figure, on this figure, actually, we evaluated the numbers of image pair for which the p-value is lower than 0.05. Okay, so you have 1,000 images, you apply the 3 methodologies, and you count the number of images for which the p-value is lower than 0.5. Okay? For a perfect testing method, in absence of colocalization, the expected level is 5%. Okay, for perfect, okay, in that case, you expect to have 5%. And for the other situation where you have correlation, you expect that you have 100%. Okay, so it must be at the highest as possible on the right-hand side and close to 5% in that case. So from these results, actually, what we have the results following one. Actually, the Lagache method, which is based on point processes, which is very standard in that field, is not sufficiently sensitive. I mean, it's very too low here, and it is able to detect positive colocalization only for 35% of cases. Okay, while in our situation we are very close to 90% here. The second result is that the COS method the COS method is too sensitive because we have 18% of positive results here, and you expect to have only 5%. So that's why you have very good, the level is higher here. Okay? So the Lagrange method is not sensitive, and the cost method is too sensitive. So in the case of noise and shift, we have the same results. And actually, the Lagrange method is not very good in the case of 2.5 colocalization here, right? So we evaluated, we compute the same score in the case of images simulated with Gaussian level sets. As before, the Lagrange method is not sufficiently sensitive, especially in the case where the correlation between the two channels is above 0.1, right? It's not bad, good news. And for more complex shapes, I mean, here, for instance, actually, the Lagrange method is not able to process such situations, because actually each connected component is reduced to a given point, so it's impossible to process such images. That's why the results are very bad in that situation. And the cost method actually is too sensitive as well in that situation, as illustrated on the left-hand side of the graph. We have maybe 25% of positive solutions. It means that you have too many false alarms, actually. Okay. So our approach typically provides a good compromise actually between these two techniques, which is actually in between, because we exploit segmentation, but we do not reduce segmentation to points. So we summarize the results on this table first, and on this figure. As you have different stars depending on the quality of methodologies. As you see, our approach, when you collect all results coming for all scenarios and you compute the average, actually you are not so far for 5% when you have in the situation where you have no colocalization. Where you have colocalization, we have the higher score. So just a few words about computing. Actually, the most computationally demanding approach is the cost method because of simulation. You need intensive simulation to compute this p-value. That's why the cost method, which does not depend on the number of objects in the image, is very bad. The Lagrange method is strongly influenced by the number of objects that you can find in the image. Typically, if this number of objects is very large, of course, the computation time is very high. It is typically the case in 3D. Okay, so when you have very large images, you have an example on the right-hand side here. And the GecoPS actually does not depend on the number of objects that you can find in the image, because it is based only on the segmentation maps. So you have it is faster for that reason, and we do not use simulation technique, because we have a closed-form solution to compute the score. So the variance, typically asymptotic variance, is computed just by Fourier transform. So this software actually can be used on the IC platform. This platform is developed by Institut Pasteur and is mainly used by biologists in cell imaging laboratories. So you can use it if you're interested in. Okay. Just to conclude, I just want to show you a few examples on real data. In that case, we focused on images obtained with STORM. STORM is a stochastic optical reconstruction microscopy technique, which gives you a resolution of about 30 nanometers. Okay, so pixel size about 30 nanometers. You have two channels here. The first channel is a VGLUT. VGLUT is a vesicle marker for presynapses. Here you have an images depicting neurons. We have inside neurons. So we have a marker for the presynapses, and you have a second marker, which is BDNF, which is a brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So the objective is to evaluate the correlation of these two channels. It's not an easy task because the segmentation mapped are the following one. For instance, I give you two segmentation maps obtained, for instance, by applying a thresholding or Otsu method, it depends what you want. Okay, and you have a second, the second map here, which is obtained by applying the spot detector. So the objective is to evaluate the correlation between these two images. Okay. So we apply the technique on these two images, and actually we got a p-value which is very, very close to 0. Okay. And this was confirmed by the cost method. The p-value is very close to 0 as well. But it took about 3 minutes to compute this p-value with the cost method, only 9 seconds to compute this score for an image composed of 500 pixels by 1,700 pixels. So this is quite fast. Okay. Right. Can we consider this methodology, but now to detect specific interaction locally in the image? So, as confirmed by our first results on synthetic data, we applied the methodology on small windows. Okay, so these are windows are selected randomly in the image, or you can apply the score. You can compute the score of over sliding windows just by scanning the image. So you have an illustration of the size of the windows here. We consider, for instance, 50 by 50 block of pixels. And the red circle or white circle correspond to a hit, so positive colocalization at the given location, right? So of course, if you have a set of, you compute on sliding windows, you can of course compute a dense colocalization map. Because it's interesting to know that they correlate, right? Or they colocalize, of course, but it's important to know where. That's why it's possible to apply this technique on very specific regions, and then you can focus now on specific region corresponding to particular functional activities in the cell. Okay, so we applied on distorted data, so the resolution is very high in that case, but of course we apply, of course, this methodology in 3D plus times, because we try to evaluate on 3D data and for a long for time series, if we have colocalization and we get a specific, typical score map here corresponding to the colocalization of computing over small windows as before. And so then we can focus on specific regions. As you see, you have typically here high score for in this area. And finally, I just must mention here that we can detect anti-colocalization with this score, which correspond to negative values of the score, which was not possible with the Pearson coefficient. Of course, Pearson coefficient give you a value between +1 and -1, but generally the colocalization is very close to 0, 0.1 or -0.1. Now we have everything is normalized, completely normalized. And you have possibility to evaluate the score. Right. That's all. I'm done. I don't know. Just a few minutes before concluding my talk. Actually, we have proposed a very specific tool for biologists to detect objectively colocalization between an image pairs corresponding to binary images segmented by an appropriate algorithm. It is fast, very robust to noise, robust to shifts between the channels, and can be applied to detect specific and local interactions in the image. I have to thank my collaborators. Thank you very much. Moi, j'étais plus court.
Thank you very much. Hi, thanks for the nice talk. Two questions. One is, so you showed that the Lagash method has some problem in detecting true positives. Do you have an intuition why is that? And I can understand the case when the objects are very large and it reduces it to a point. But for the other cases, is there a reason where the Ripley's based statistics you feel is not working properly?
Oh, you mean why doesn't it work for the other methods, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, especially for the Lagash method, which uses Ripley statistics. I can understand when you have large shapes, it is reducing it to a point, and that is probably not a very good approximation. But for cases where you are basically looking at two small objects, is there a reason why your metric is outperforming the other? Is something which is captured, like more information is there?
Actually, because we consider binary segmentation maps, actually you have more information. That's why, for instance, our test is better, because you have shapes, large shapes, and small. So you need just to evaluate just the overlap between these two channels. If you have points, actually the results should be okay in that situation. Right. For the Lagash method, point process, it's okay. If you have a larger number of objects, probably we do the same job now. But sometimes you cannot guarantee, as on such situation, that you have spots, dots actually. That if you have dots in the two channels with the same resolution, you can apply point processes. Probably you get satisfying results, right? But sometimes you need. You have a situation which is more complex to extract the information. That's why we have a good compromise here between object-based and intensity-based. So we have just in between, because correlation, Pearson correlation is based on intensity. So we have just an interface between these two words. That's why the method is more flexible actually.
Is there an application which you find apart from Palm and Storm where, you know, in Palm you could look at points, but are there applications where you simulated some cases where there were some large objects, but are there any realistic scenarios where you encounter objects of that size?
Yes, I guess. Now, what do you mean?
So when you had the simulations of the different object sizes,
yeah,
probably an example like that. Do objects like this of such exaggerated sizes exist when you are, or I mean, is it realistic to obtain them when you are looking into something like protein-protein colocalization? Do you actually find them in real images?
Yes, well, yeah, well, you have to do something like that, yes. Okay. No problem. No, yeah, there exists a situation like that. Actually, as you can imagine, you have many, I showed you a few examples here. You have many situations, complex situations. Actually, in life science, in biology, you have many situations like that. You can imagine you have different shapes and yes, for sure.
For the comparison of CPU time, here.
Oh, sorry.
Could you show the slide for your comparison? CPU time. Yes, ImageG, is it in Java?
Yeah.
Yes.
Java.
So I think it's very hard to compare the time because C++ is much faster than Java. So have you computed the real complexity of the different methods in order to have a fair comparison?
That's
because the IC, does it use a GPU processor or no?
No. Actually, that's why we propose a line for GCOPS and Lagash with IC, just to give you an objective comparison. Actually, the Lagash method with Java in 3D doesn't work. There was some problems, so it was not possible to evaluate everything. But of course, in C++ it's faster, yes, for sure.
Much faster.
Much faster, yeah. But that's why we propose two implementations in C++ and Java so you can see the difference. So you have a ratio of 2 between our two implementations, as you see. But it depends on the number of objects. So you have the two implementations here with the same software. And which is the main point is the A50 transform. With IC, it's not so efficient. It's better with MATLAB, for instance, and so on. But the A50 is the basic tool you need to speed up the algorithm. If you have a good implementation of A50, then it's better. Yeah?
Yeah, when you apply your method on 2D plus time or 3D, did you treat time like a 3D dimension? Is it the same way?
No, actually, yes. Actually, you can consider that a 2D plus time as a volume, because you have to evaluate the correlation with in tubes in time. So that's why we did that. But of course, generally we compute correlation frame to frame. It's better, but we evaluated the algorithm if it is able to process a sequence typically. That's why we.
And my question was, if we consider time, then you can have trajectories instead of just points. So instead of when by accident some are crossing, by considering trajectories, you can detect that it's not colocalization actually. Yeah. So did you try that?
It's a specific question. Should be addressed differently.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're right.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So let's thank our speaker again.